I think we can start since we are a good number, and I don't know whether others are joining. So, Ellen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I think I'll stop sharing, and then we can start to respect the people who have already joined.
All right, sure. That would be
Yeah.
great. All right. So good afternoon, good evening, and good day, everyone. So basically, I'm from Malaysia, so for me, it's going to be good night. But I believe in Central Africa and also other parts of the world, it's still evening and afternoon. So good afternoon, good evening. My name is Alan, and I'll be educating on Power Query for today's session. So we will try to understand the glimpse, the basic understanding of Power Query. Of course, you are looking at the PowerPoint slides. I will use the PowerPoint slides as like a whiteboard presentation to show you what is Power Query is. So now I need to explain to you what is Power Query. So basically Power Query, it can do three things, which is ETL. When you talk about Power Query, it is a tool that can perform three things. ETL. So what is ETL? So E stands for extract, which means it can import data from external source. It can also transform data. So today we will learn about data transformation, data import, data transformation, and also it can load data. Okay, so now you have an understanding that I have explained that Power Query can do ETL, whereby E for extract, T for transform, and L for load. But before we understand the subject of Power Query, we need to understand the word query first. So I need to explain the word query. In English, when you talk about English, query means it's like about inquiry, or basically it's a simple word of question. That's what is query means in English. But in the terminology of IT, query is basically a transport. A transport where it can import data from external source. Okay, so query is basically a data or a vehicle which can import information from other source. That is why there is also a thing called BW query. BW query is basically business warehouse query. Okay, and let me just put the full name: business warehouse query. Basically, this is actually a software which can import data from SAP software. Okay, this is basically not software. The better word will be vehicle. A vehicle or a tool which basically can actually import data from SAP. And then you also have SQL, structured query language. Okay, so this, I'm not going to cover this, but I'm just guiding you. I'm just showing you an example. So this is also another tool which can also import data and also transform some information. And then after that, we also have query function in Google Sheet. If you have Google Sheet, if some companies are employing Google Sheet, in Google Sheet, not only they have VLOOKUP formula, XLOOKUP formula, they also have the query function, the query formula in Google Sheet. But if just say we are talking about Excel and Power BI, in Excel and Power BI, we do have Power Query. Okay, so if you want to understand what is the word called query in IT, of course, in English, query means question, but in IT, query is basically a transport which can import data from external source. And query, when I talk about Power Query, is not limited on importing data. It is also involving transforming data, how you can shape the data into a tabular format or in a desired output. And then after that, you can load into a various format. So depending on what version you are using, because if just say you're using Excel 2007 or Excel 2010, you are not able to use Power Query. But if you're using Excel 2013, it's a bit different procedure to import the data and so on. If you are using Excel 2016 onwards, it's also a bit different. Excel 2019 also, you can import data, but you will see that certain things you can't import. For example, you are not able to import data from PDF. But if you are using Excel 365 or Excel 2021 or the latest one, Excel 2024, you will notice that basically you can actually import data even from a PDF as well. Okay, so basically, if you want to understand what is Power Query basically is a transport which can import data from external source. So Power Query can do three things: ETL, extract, transform, and load. So when you're talking about load in Power Query, because if you notice, I got explained to you that we have many versions of Excel. Just like when you buy an iPhone, you have iPhone 5S, iPhone 5C, iPhone 13, iPhone 16. The same thing, Microsoft has many different versions. So why I explain this? Because different version you can load in different format. If you remember, I said that Power Query can load. In 2016 version, if you are using 2016, you can only load as a table format, or you can only create as connection only. But if you are using 2019 onwards, you can actually load in various format such as table format, pivot table, pivot chart, and connection. Of course, when I type this, I write this, some of you may not understand, you may not get the picture. But right now, when I explain to you, you are trying to absorb an information, you're trying to digest what Power Query able to do. So if you have a pen and paper, if you want to remember or you want to absorb the information, Power Query can do three things: ETL. And Power Query is basically a vehicle, which the word query itself is a vehicle that can import data. So now let's get started. So now if you notice, I've already given this file to Crispo, and I believe Crispo has also given this to all of us. So basically this is the documents that we'll be using for today's session. So the first thing is, what I want to do is, I'm not going to touch this topic. I want to go to Google Chrome. Basically, even an information can be imported from the Google as well, from the internet as well. So just say I want to go to a Wikipedia of FIFA World Cup. I want to go to a Wikipedia page for FIFA World Cup. So there is a particular page, a particular Wikipedia regarding the FIFA World Cup. And when I scroll down, okay, we do have many sections. So I actually want to emphasize a section called results. So when I scroll down, as I scroll down over here, we do have a section called results. So basically what I want to do is, I want to import this information to the Excel file, because I want to see the countries, I want to see the runners up, all this information I want to import to the Excel file. So what I'll do is, I'll go to my Excel file. So the first thing is, you need to understand what version of Excel you're using. How to know what version you're using? You need to go to file. Okay, once you click the file, you need to go to account. So if you're using 2007, 2010, you are not able to click account. But if you're using 2016 onwards, there is a thing called here, a section called here account. However, some cases you're not able to find account, you can click more, M-O-R-E. So when you click more, you click account. So when I click account, you will notice on your right hand side, we do have the version. So as you can see over here, it is Microsoft 365. So if Microsoft 365, that's the version of Excel that I'm using. So why I'm telling you this? Because once you know what version you're using, then there is a different process to import the data. So basically now when I go to, if they say I want to import the data from the internet, I go to data ribbon. As you can see here, there is data ribbon. So now how to import the information from an internet? We go to data and we go to the icon here from web. So my friends, can you see from web? If you can see from web, can you type number 1 in the chat box? So basically what we want to do is, we want to import an information from the internet. So how to import the information from internet? We go to data and we click from web, as you can see over here. So maybe one more time, can you just show thumbs up if you can see from web over here, my dear friends? So what you do is, you just click from web over here. So once you click from web, you will notice that a box will appear. So the box will appear. What you'll do is, they will ask you what is the website link. You need to copy the website and paste it over here. So what I'll do is, I will try to go to the internet. I will try to copy this website and I will paste it in this box. So once I click from web, I paste it over here. I press OK. So once I press OK, you will notice that another box will appear. Another window will pop out. So in this particular window, they will ask you which section you want to choose. Basically, there's a lot of section, but which particular section you want to choose? So I want to choose a section called result. Of course, here got so many table. Okay, so let me just click randomly. Okay, so we do have this table. All right, so let me just click and show to you. All right, so wait, let me just go to this context. We do have, never mind, let me just show another one. Okay, so if just say I click this particular table and then I press load. So once I press load, you will notice that it will import the data from the internet to the Excel sheet. So basically what Power Query can do is it can actually import from the internet to the Excel file. And not only that, it also can import from other source as well. So basically what I want to show is just say you go to data ribbon, it can import from a website, it can import from a text pad or a CSV file. It can also import from other file as well, whether in the form of Excel workbook, other Excel workbook, or Notepad CSV, PDF, or also from folder. Folder means where if you save multiple files in a folder, it can also import all the information from a particular folder as well. So now what we want to do is we want to import from text CSV. So just now what we did is we already import an information from the internet. Now what I want to do is I want to import from the text CSV. So I will go to my folder. As you can see over here, we do have a data called splitting data. So once I click on splitting data, I click on this notepad. So we have this particular notepad which have the start, end, days, and cook. So what I want to do is I want to import this information to the Excel file. How I'm going to do is I will just go to my Excel file. I will try to go to the data and I will click from text CSV. You can actually go here, or another way is get data from file text CSV. So either way is the same. So you just click it over here and then you will notice that a box will appear. So basically you need to choose the file, it depending where you save the file. So for example, I save this in my desktop. So I need to go to my desktop and then I need to go to the folder where I save. So I save it on 10 November and I will just click on this particular thing. So just say I want to know splitting data. I select this particular file. I press import. So once I press import, so of course they will ask me whether I want to load, transform data or cancel. So when you press load, automatically it will load as a table format. But when you click here load to, you can also load to a different format. But this one I will cover later. Transform data is where it will go to Power Query and it will do some data transformation depending on what you want. If cancel means it can automatically cancel. So if just say I press load, you will notice that automatically it will load as a table format. So initially it was in a CSV file. It is in a notepad, sorry, it is in a notepad. But now what happened is when I import, it will actually produce in a tabular format. So now let me go one more time so that I will try to make you understand how we can actually import an information from an external source. So if just say I want to import from a notepad. So how to import from a notepad? So basically what you need to do is the first step is you need to click on data ribbon. You need to click on data ribbon. And then once you click data ribbon, you need to click from text/CSV. Once you click text/CSV, you will notice that a box will appear. So in this particular box, you need to choose the particular file. It depends where you save. Either you save in your OneDrive, in your document, your downloads, or your desktop. Once you choose the file, and then after that, you can either press load or you want to press transform data. It depends on your requirement. Then after that, once you press load, it will load as a table format. So these are the steps. So let us do it together on how we can import from a text CSV file. So let me just go here and paste it over here. First step is click data ribbon. Where is data ribbon? data ribbon is over here. We click data ribbon. Step number 2, click from text CSV. Where is text CSV? It is over here from text CSV. Once we click text CSV, you will notice that a box will appear. So you need to know where is the location. Either you save in your documents, your OneDrive, or your company's folder. It depends on where you save the file. Once the box appear, you choose the file. So I'm going to choose the file this time, stack data. Just now I choose splitting, now I choose stack. So I press import. Once I press import, you will notice that another box will appear. So it depends, you want to press load or transform. So it depends whether you want to press transform, where you want to do the data cleaning, or you press load. So if you press load, you will notice that it will load as a table format, because initially, as you can see over here, when I click on this this notepad, if you notice carefully, this one we have imported to the Excel file, but originally it was in this format. All this information have been imported from the notepad. So that's the exciting part. Not only we can import from the internet, we can also import from a text pad or a notepad. Now let us do one more time, but this time we want to import from a PDF. So what you can do is, so I'll just do one more time. First step is I click data ribbon. Okay, so let me zoom so that people can see clearly what I'm writing. Okay, so first step is you click data ribbon. Then the second step is, so this time what we want to do is we want to import a data from the PDF. Okay, so let me just write the header, import data from PDF. But make sure your PDF is readable, because if it's a scan copy, it will not able to capture the information. So make sure it's a readable copy. So how to import data from PDF? First step is you click on data ribbon. Step number 2 is you click get data. Once you click get data, third step is you click from file. Fourth step is you click from PDF. But a disclaimer is this one is available in Excel 2021 onwards. Meaning to say, if you are using Excel 2016, you are using Excel 2019, you might not able to import a data from PDF. But if you are using Excel 2021 or 365, you are able to import the data from PDF. So how to import data from PDF? If you are using Excel 2021 and 365, first step is you click on data ribbon. So the first step is you click data ribbon, which is over here. Then you click get data. Where is get data? It is on your left. Okay, on your left, there is an item, there is an icon called get data. You click it over there. So once you click get data, you just click from file. Where is from file? Over here, from file. So you click from file and then you click from PDF. That means you click from file and then you click from PDF. So once you click from PDF, you press it over here, you will notice that a box will appear. So I want to select a PDF. So I will select this PDF over here and I press import. So once I press import, you will notice that a box will appear. So now let me show you what is this PDF. So we have a BMW PDF regarding the price of BMW in Malaysia. Since I'm from Malaysia, I live in Malaysia, I work in Malaysia, I born in Malaysia. So we have details of BMW vehicles in Malaysian price, Malaysian currency. So what I want to do is, if just say I want to import page 1 only, all this information, what I'll do is, I'll go back to my Excel file. You can actually select this page 1 or you can select this table 1 as well as you can. So I select this table 1 and I press load. So once I press load, you will notice that whatever that is available in the PDF, it will be automatically imported to the Excel file. So my friends, do you understand what is Power Query? If you understand, can you show thumbs up? Or you can just type number 2 in the chat box. So you can either show thumbs up or you can just type number 2 in the chat box if you understand what is Power Query. But actually Power Query is a very, very big topic because right now you are only understanding how to import data. But in reality, in working world, they are using more than 5 different Excel files on how we can incorporate the data, how we can change data source and so on. So for now, we are understanding a few percentage on what is Power Query. So if you want to understand what is Power Query got 3 things. E, T, L. E means extract. Extract means it can actually import data. Import data from where? From PDF, from Notepad, okay, text, Notepad, from internet, even from other Excel file as well. Next one is ETL. T means transform. Transform means it can actually do various transformation. Later, I'll show you the magic on how it can transform the data, and then it can also load in various format. For now, if you notice, we have only load in a table format only. So there are many ways actually to load the data. We will cover that in the next exercise. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is, I actually want to import this Excel file. The Excel file name is part 1. I'm going to click it over here. So if you notice, now we have an Excel file. The name of the Excel file is part 1. And in part 1 sheet, we do have a company named ABC. And in this company, they sell Apple products such as iPhone, MacBook, Apple Watch, iPad, and other products such as AirPods, Apple services, other accessories. So basically in this particular information, what I want to do is just say in this given data, your manager want to understand the total monthly sales. So I'm going to put here a sticky note so that to understand what is our requirement. Our requirement from this case is number 1, we want to understand the total Apple product sales by months. That is our first assignment. And then number 2 is I want to understand what are the top 5 Apple models. Okay, top 5 sales of Apple models, whether it's iPhone 13 or MacBook, which are the top 5 dominating products or models. And then I also want to see the total sales of each Apple products. That means how much sales for iPhone, how much sales for MacBook, how much sales for Apple Watch, and also I want to see the percentage allocation. So basically, in this given data, we have a monthly report for each product like iPhone, MacBook, Apple Watch, iPad, and other. But I want to know the total sales for each month. So instead of I manually adding one by one, I can actually use Power Query to do the massaging, and I can use pivot table to do my requirement. So let's get started. So what I'll do is, the first thing is, if just say I want to import a data from an Excel file, the first step what I need to do is, I need to actually click data ribbon. So let me write down the note so that you can see clearly. First step is you click data ribbon. Over here, we do have this data ribbon. The second step is we click get data. Once we click get data, then we click from file, and then we choose from Excel workbook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click get data. So if you want to ask what is this, basically how to import data from other Excel file. So now what I'll do is I will just go to data, and then I will click on get data, and then I'll click from file, and then I'll click from Excel workbook, from file, from Excel workbook. So once I click this, you will notice that a box will appear, and then you need to choose the file accordingly, and you press import. Once you press import, they will ask you which sheet you choose. Normally in an Excel file, in a working file, they will have more than one sheet. But in this case, we only have one sheet, which is part 1. So this is the data that we want to import. But if you remember just now, I have this requirement. If I press load, automatically it will load as a table format. When I press load, automatically it will load as a table format. I actually want to clean this data first, and then I want to load in a pivot table format. So what I do is I will click transform data. Before this, we focus on this area called load. Now we want to focus on transform data. So we click transform data. Once we click transform data, you will notice that you will be navigated to Power Query Editor. Meaning to say, the moment when you click the transform data, you will be navigated to Power Query Editor. In this Power Query Editor, what we will do is we will do the data cleaning. Basically, the session for today is understanding Power Query. So now we have gone to Power Query Editor. What I want to do is I want to clean the data. You see here, the data is not in a proper format because we have lot of nulls, we do have multiple Januaries and so on. So first thing is we need to have a look at our data. So now we see this is our data is in a very messy format. So we need to understand how we can actually, what is our desired output? Our desired output is we want one column for the products like iPhone, MacBook. So let me just write down. So I want a table which has the following, which means it has one column just for the products. Products means like Apple, MacBook. Okay, I'm going to write here. Sorry, iPhone, MacBook, and etc. And then I want another column which shows the models. That means like iPhone 13, MacBook Pro, and so on. The third column is I want to show a column for months only. That means like January, February, March. And then the last column, I only want the values. So how I actually want to clean the data and produce only 4 columns? Well, it's very easy. First step is, if you notice carefully, this first column, we don't have any information. Basically, this first column is not necessary. So what we can do is, we can click it over here. We can just press right click and we can click remove. So when we click remove, it will automatically remove this column. Or in your keyboard, what you do is you select this column. In your keyboard, there is a delete button. So what you do is you select the delete button. Once you select the delete button, automatically it will delete the column and it will capture over here. Now the next step is what you need to do is, if you notice the first row, this first row over here, we have all null. Basically, the first row is not necessary. So how to remove the first row? Well, to remove the first row is we go to home and we click remove row. So under the remove row, what we do is we click remove top row. Why we must click remove top row? Because the first row we want to remove. So the first row is located at the top. That is why we want to remove the top row. So we click it over here. A box will appear. So how many rows you want to remove? I only want to remove the first row, which is the one row only. I press OK. So automatically it will remove the first row. And then after that, what you can do is, you see here we have all none. So what we can do is we can fill down. How to fill down? We press right click, and then when you press right click, there is an item called fill and you can fill down. So once you fill down, automatically it will fill down the data. All the null will be disappeared and replaced with this above data. So if just say you want to undo, you want to understand how I did it. So there is no Control Z or there is no undo button over here. To undo is you need to actually go over here and remove over here. So this is how you can undo in Power Query. So what if just say accidentally, being a human, accident does happen. So what if just say you accidentally close this pane, query settings, you accidentally close this. When you accidentally close this, don't worry. What you can do is you can go to view, you can click on query settings. You click it over here and it will pop up. Okay, so this will show whatever happens, it will record. So what you can do is if you want to fill down, you press right click and then you press fill and then you press fill down. This is one way. Another way is you can go to transform and then over here also under the transform, we have fill and we can fill down. So automatically it will fill down. And then what you want to do is, you see here we have January, February, March, April. I want to promote this as the header. To promote as the header, what you can do is you can go to home and you can click use first row as header. Meaning to say the first row will be promoted as the header. You can either go home and click it over here, or you can go to transform and click it over here. Use first row as header. So you click this, automatically you will have January, February, March, April, May as the header. But if you notice carefully, here we have null, null, January, null, null, January. So what you can do is, you can actually, if just say you don't want the total, you don't want the null, you can just like how in Excel we can filter. Here also, we can just filter out the null and we can also filter out the total. And we press OK. So now it looks in a better format. So like I told you, I want one column for the products, and in another column, I also want the dedicated column for models. So what I can do is, other columns all I want to actually unpivot. So unpivot, basically it will convert the multiple columns into two different columns. Meaning to say, I will select the January, scroll to the right, and I'll select December. So basically we do have these 12 columns, and you can go to transform and you can actually click unpivot columns over here. So once you click unpivot column, you will notice that it will unpivot the January column, February column, and March column. Why it never unpivot the April column? Because if you look here carefully, in April column, we have no data. Wherein there is no data, basically it will show null only. If there is no data, it will show null only. So what you do is, you need to select January until the end. But what if just say there is many columns that I need to select? How to do a smarter way? A smarter way is, you can select the first two columns. You can select the first two columns. And then after that, what you can do is, you can actually press right click and you can select unpivot other columns. So the other columns will be unpivoted. So once you select over here, you will notice that it will unpivot the other columns. So here we have the products. So you can rename this as products. And you can rename this as models. Models. You can rename this as months. Sorry, months. And you can rename this as the values or USD. It depends on you. So I just want to put this, if you notice, there's ABC123. So I want to put this into a number format, whole number. So automatically, if you notice, it has become a tabular format. And based on this given data, what you can do is, you can actually load this into a pivot table. So I can go to home and then I click on close and load to. Because when you press close and load, automatically it will load as a table format. So what you can do is, you can press close and load to. So when you press close and load to, you will notice that it will actually appear as it can actually load as a table, pivot chart, or only create collection. So I'll just choose pivot table. I press OK. So right now you will notice that we can actually load in a pivot table. So basically what our requirement is, we have three things. Apple product by sales of the month. So I just take the month and I take the value. So now we have this information. So let me just press right click, number format, accounting, no symbol, and I press OK. And I want to do the same thing. So I'll copy another pivot table. So the second one is top 5 sales of Apple model. So let me just untick the months. And let me just select the top 5 only. So this is how you can do it. And then after that, the third one is the sales of each Apple products and their allocation. So let me copy this. And then I unselect the models. I select the products. And I will put the values again. And these values, I just show values by percentage of their total. So basically what we can note is, basically we can actually use Power Query to do the data cleaning. We clean the data because originally when I open the part 1, when I open part 1, you will notice that this is my file. But over here, we notice that we have this report basically. So Power Query can do the data cleaning and pivot table can do the data analysis. So today's topic, what we learn is we learn about Power Query, how Power Query can import the data and how Power Query can actually transform the data from multiple tables to a single table only. So my friends, do you understand? If you understand, can you type number 3 in the chat box? So if you understand or you have any questions, you can just type your questions. So before I proceed, does anyone has any questions? Okay, so I see some of you understand, so feel free to.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was telling them they can unmute themselves or they can write on the chat. So somebody has a question.
Second table, how do I do it? That means you mean this table? Michael has a question. Second table, how do you do it? Are you referring to this question?
Yes,
are you referring to this table?
Second table, yeah.
Okay, so basically, if just say let me just unclear this. Okay, so what I do is I'll click on the models. I will go to this arrow box, or they call it as auto filter box. I go to value filter and I select top 10, and over here I change to top 5. So Michael, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so basically pivot table and Power Query can actually do ETL, whereby it can extract the data, import the data, it can do data transformation, it can also load the data. So now if just say I show you another magic, let me just open part 3. When just say I open part 3, over here, you will notice that we have a very weird table, whereby we have employee name, employee ID, join date, and annual salary. So we can use actually Power Query to actually transform this data to a proper format. Proper format means basically I only want 4 columns. I want 1 column for employee name, 1 column for employee ID, 1 column for join date and annual salary. So we can use Power Query to do the data transformation. How to do it is, okay, first step is I put my cursor on this table and then I press Ctrl A. When I press Ctrl A, you will notice that you will highlight the entire table. And then what you do is you go to data and you click from table/range. So once you click from table/range, you will notice that a box will appear. So what you can do is you can untick my table as header. Why you want to untick? Because this is not my header. My header is not this name. I actually want employee name, ID, join date, and salary. So what I do is I untick the headers and I press OK. So once I press OK, automatically it will go to Power Query Editor. So in this Power Query Editor, what I want to do is I want to do some transformation. So first thing is I transform and I click transpose. So transpose means it will transpose the format. So when I click transpose, it will transpose into this format. So basically this is like what I want. I want 1 column for employee name. I want 1 column for employee ID. I want 1 column for join date. I also want 1 column for annual salary. But the problem is we have multiple column on employee name, employee ID, and join date. So what you can do is basically you can actually create a column. So I click on add column and I'll click a index column. So this index column, basically it can be like a dummy column. So I click index column. So this index column can serve as a dummy column. And then what I can do is I can press right click and then I can actually unpivot other columns. So when I press unpivot other columns, so basically now it will be in this particular format. Of course, it may sound confusing, but let me show you the magic in the while. So basically I want 4 columns: name, employee ID, join date, and the salary. So how we can actually change this? Okay, first thing is I remove these 2 columns and I press delete. And then if you notice over here, these columns, this row 1 until row 12 is not necessary. Row 1 until row 12 is not necessary. So what you can do is you can go to home, you can click on remove row and you can remove top row. Once you click on remove top row, you will notice that a box will appear. So how many rows I want to remove? I want to remove the first row until the 12th row because I don't want these headers. So I remove this 12 and I press OK. Once I press OK, so you will notice that we only have the data for now. So if you look here carefully, we have the name, we have the ID number, we have the date, we have amount, we have name, we have ID number, we have the date, we have the amount, the salary. So basically what happened is basically I actually want to segregate into 4 different columns. That means the first column for name, second column for the ID number, third column for the date, fourth column for the salary. So what I do is I go to add column and then after that I just select on index column. Once I select index column, so index column is basically a column that shows the sequence, whether it starts from 0, starts from 1. So basically a column that shows the sequence. Then under the add column, I go to standard. The standard, basically what I'll do is I'll click here and I press divide integer. Why I press divide integer? Why I never choose divide? Because if divide, the difference between divide integer and divide will have decimal places. Divide here will have decimal places. Divide integer will actually shows us the whole number only. So I click here divide integer, a box will access. So now you might be wondering why I must divide and what number I must divide. Basically, I want to divide into 4. Why 4? Because here we have one column for name, one column from the ID number, one column for the date, one column for the amount. So the name, ID number, and then the join date, and then the salary. Name, ID number, join date, and salary. So 4 different columns. So I press OK. You will notice that we do have a pattern over here. 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. And then what you need to do is you need to do the same thing. I select the index column. I go to transform. I click standard. Instead of integer divide, I choose modulo. So modulo is basically a remainder. So if you see here, there's a word called remainder. So I click modulo and I still choose 4 and I press OK. So right now you will notice there is a pattern 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So what I'll do is I will actually select this column. I will go to transform and I will click pivot column. Just now we studied unpivot column. Now I will focus on pivot column. So I click on pivot column and then what I'll do is I want to pivot these values and I will select the advanced option and I will select as don't aggregate because I don't want to count. I don't want to aggregate. So I click don't aggregate and I press OK. So once I press OK, now you will notice that it has been transformed into 4 different columns. So basically what Power Query can do is it can actually do data transformation. It can transform from one single column into 4 different columns. So my friends, is this something new for you? If this is something new for you, can you type number 4 in the chat box? So basically this is a Power Query where it can do a lot of magic tricks and so on. All right, so before I proceed, does anyone have any questions? So this is how the data, of course, we can actually improvise the data by putting the column header, changing the format and so on. So this is what Power Query is. Not only it can import the data, it can actually do data transformation. It can actually transform the data into various format. So for example, over here, let me go to the easiest one. So like for example, over here we have a company. Yeah. So actually, there's actually many different examples that you can use Power Query to do transformation. And I will just try to go to the easiest one, because just now I went to the difficult part. I never explained thoroughly. So now I need to show the easiest part so that you not only you can absorb the information, you can also digest the information. Okay. So now if you see here we do have a very weird table format, because sometimes what happen is there are cases our report we will merge the column. We will merge the column and this is the format. So now what if just say I actually want to have 4 different columns. One column for the company name, one column for the type, which is forecast and actual, one column for the OPEX or CAPEX, another column for the values. Meaning one column for company name, one column for the type. The type means like actual, forecast, and then one column for expenses, and then one column is for the values. So actually how I can actually do this is, first thing is I must highlight the table. So I put my cursor over here and I press Ctrl A. Ctrl A will highlight the entire table. Then I go to data. I click from table/range. I click it over here, a box will appear. I unselect my table as header. So some of you may ask me, why I must unselect? Is it I unselect all the time? No. Basically, if just say this is your header, then you just tick. But these are not my header. These are the information. This is not my header. So what I do is I unselect and I press OK. Once I unselect, so now you'll see that this now it appears in this format. So what we do is we want to have 4 different columns. One for company name, one for the type, one for the expenses. So what you do is you go to transform and you transpose. So once you transpose, so now it will appear in this format. And here we have null, null, null. So what we can do is we can press right click and then we can go to fill and we fill down. Why we fill down? Because we don't want the null. So I press here fill down. So now automatically it can fill down. And then what I can do is here we have OPEX, here we have CAPEX. So I can promote it as the header. So what I do is I will go to transform and I click use first row as header. So I click it over here. Automatically now you have OPEX and CAPEX as the header. Then what you can do is you can select these 2 columns, right click, and you can press here unpivot column, or you can go over here. So you can just select over here and then automatically it changes. So here we have company name, here we have the type, here we have the expenses, and here we have the value. So my friends, do you have any question? If you understand, can you type number 5 in the chat box? If you have no questions, can you type number 6 in the chat box? So if you have any questions, you can ask. But if you have, you understand or you learn something new, can you type number 5 in the chat box? All right, so yep. So we have learned some information on the basic of Power Query. Basically, Power Query is one big ocean. It's not possible for me to teach everything in just within 24 hours. Basically, it's like a 2-semester, 1-year subject. But right now, at least you understand what is Power Query. So basically, if you see in this particular slide that I shared just now, Power Query, what it can do is, first thing is the word, you understand the word query. It can transport data. Number 2 is Power Query can do ETL. It can extract the data, it can transform the data, it can also load the data. So regardless how messy your data, Power Query, there is the ways to find Power Query to do data cleaning, and you can either load in a table format or a pivot table format. Okay, so at this juncture, if you understand, maybe can you type number 6? If you learned something new, can you type number 7? All right, so it's 8:45. So can I pass the floor to Crispo? I think I can wrap up today because since I have flu. So